some way using a sort of a multiplier effect of mentoring leaders that they engage in community-based projects, and they are expected to form and to train and to coach the next generation of leaders. This is extremely innovative and is extremely powerful. And I think that we need to look at the way that the Project 2030 join some of the initiatives of the UN. And today I will share some of them with you to transform this message in something very operational, no, an action-oriented message. So I think that after this celebration, that as you said is taking place in a context of a global crisis, this celebration certainly needs to allow us to reinforce the partnerships of Project 2030 and the UN. I think that your philosophy is also a demonstration of solidarity. By the fact that you are preparing the next generation, this is a clear demonstration that you are thinking on those that perhaps they will be facing a new type of challenges, and you are preparing them. If you look at the definition of sustainable development, sometimes we define sustainable development with a quite complex and technical words, no? But the basic definition of sustainable development says that we promote sustainable development when we have a generation that is able to satisfy its needs without compromising the ability of future generations to satisfy their own needs. So in fact, is everything about solidarity. So investing in sustainable development is a very concrete political act of thinking about the new generations. And the fact that we cannot compromise the future of the generations to come. And this is Project 2030. Project 2030 for me is a great example of solidarity. So it means that you are bringing a quite important ethical, moral value to your project. So when you deal with community-based projects to ensure that we accomplish the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, this is a strong moral, ethical investment. And I strongly suggest that you emphasize that because this is what let's say, what brings value to a common purpose. As you know, the UN launched what we call the Decade of Action. Decade of Action means that this is the last decade for the accomplishment of the SDGs. So we have the chance of being the generation that, for example, can end poverty. We have the chance of being the generation, and not just you as youth, even myself, jointly, we have the opportunity to reduce inequalities. So this is a very, very important moment that, however, started with a global crisis. So last year, when with the Secretary General Antonio Gutierrez, we started thinking on the way we establish priorities for this decade, of course, we were not in a position to foresee this crisis, no? And we were engaged in a planning process, and now we start with a big challenge. And I'm sure that you are taking into consideration in this celebration what this challenge implies for Project 2030. This is a very particular situation. And something that we know from the COVID-19 is that this virus doesn't recognize borders. We are all of us affected by this crisis, no? The poor, the rich, those that are in the Philippines, those that are in Bolivia, in France, in South Africa, no borders. And what we learn from this crisis is that it's unveiling, is demonstrating our vulnerabilities, weaknesses, because we have to accept, and this is something that concerns all of us, and particularly those that we have a leadership responsibility. We were not able to predict this crisis. We have thousands of handbooks and guidelines and policies that in some way they are, reinforcing the idea that is better to prevent than cure. But we were not able with this crisis. So this crisis is showing a numbers of vulnerabilities. And what is interesting is that this crisis that started as a public health crisis immediately became a human crisis, So this is something, and you don't need that I repeat that. You, as a youth, you know the impact of this crisis is affecting the social fabric, is affecting local economies, is affecting international trade, is affecting people, communities, households, and even human rights. Is affecting also human rights. So what we learn from this crisis is that is challenging the capacity of response of any single player. This crisis is challenging the capacity of response of any single country, any single nation. So if we need to work together, is now. Now is the time of alliances. Now is the time of partnership. Because let's say the type of challenges that we are facing requires that we work together and requires cooperation. And if we look at the meaning of cooperation, cooperation is everything about leadership. We cannot deal with cooperation without leadership. And we need leaders. We need leaders. We need those that are every day, every hour, every second, they are recalling that we have a common purpose. We need this type of leaders, those that are recalling the value of reducing poverty, the value of addressing inequalities. So this is the time of cooperation. So Project 2030 is celebrating today achievement, but in the context where we are surrounded by challenges, but this Project 2030 is having a great opportunity. So today you have the chance of shining more than ever, because today you will show the result of that. Today you will show that as a young leaders, you are building resilience future, which is fundamental after a shock of this nature. And the SDGs, let me just share with you one of the things that we need to address as leaders, myself, those that have political responsibility. Of course, we need to save lives, we need to save the economy, we need to address the most immediate needs, but it's fundamental in a crisis that we have a vision. Otherwise, we will be engaged in what we call short-termism, that we are just thinking of what is happening, in the coming months, in the coming years. And sometimes we are just thinking what is part of our own political agenda. And this is very risky. This is very risky because in time of crisis, at least this type of crisis, we need vision. We need vision. We need to have a horizon. And the SDGs, they represent one of the most powerful horizons and visions for humanity. So I challenge you to give me if humanity had in the past such type of development agenda that is globally endorsed by all countries. This is an exception. And this is why the SDGs, they are needed more than ever in the context of this crisis. So congratulations to you. Congratulations. This is great. This is great. You are at the heart of the solution because you have a vision, you are recalling the SDGs, and today you are celebrating achievements, and achievements that are taking place at the community level. They are not abstract ideas. This is something that is happening at the very local level. You can even put the names of those engaged in those projects. This is fantastic. This is fantastic. And as representative of the UN here, I'm inviting you to take part in our effort and to join our capacities and our knowledge, and particularly to join this energy, because you bring a lot of energy. When I see the way that you are preparing this event, the massive numbers of participants. So this is great. So congratulations, colleagues. Let me just refer to some data that I think is important to bring this celebration, to bring some context. Um, there are over 1.8 billions of young people in the world today. So this is the history's largest ever generation of youth that we have now. Close to 90% of these young people live in developing countries. 90%. In countries like the Philippines, where they make up large part of the population. You are part of that. Even before the pandemic, more than 1 in 5 young people were not in employment, education, or training. Millions of girls become mothers every year, often while still children themselves. Mental health issues among young people continue to see an unprecedented rise. And it is estimated that 408 million young people live today in contexts affected by armed conflict. So it's even a question of common sense that we need to empower youth. And empowering youth is investing in their human capital and in their innovative solutions like Project 2030 to genuinely build more sustainable, just, and peaceful world. We will not be able to end poverty, ensure gender equality, reverse climate change, and achieve the SDGs by 2030 if we fail to empower all young people in all their diversity. As a UN, we have been working with member states. We work for member states on this issue, and we had the adoption of the World Program of Action for Youth by the General Assembly time ago, 1995, that provided the milestones for policy and for national action and international support to improve the situation of young people around the globe. Building on his history, we have the Youth 2030, quite close to the name of your project. That was the first ever UN youth strategy. It was launched in 2018, and it serves as a common framework for the UN system to come together to work with and for youth. And it's interesting because in the Philippines, and this is an invitation to all of you, in the Philippines, the UN has long acknowledged the critical role of the youth as drivers of the Sustainable Development Goals. And in 2018, the United Nations country team established the Philippines United Nations Youth Advisory Board, which is represented by a diversity of youth in the country to proactively advise the UN, my team, on how it can work more effectively and efficiently with the youth and on youth issues. So I would therefore invite you, your organizations, to join this Youth Advisory Board as we open the board to new members. We have just launched the process of the new membership. And we have a numbers of UN agencies, UNDP, ILO, UNFPA, UNICEF, FAOs, and many others that they are developing in numbers of initiatives that aims at empowering youth. And I have let's say, various pages on that. I'm not going to bother you on that, and it's not my intention to advertise the work of the UN, but just to recognize that it's never enough when it relates to youth empowerment. Um, I take this opportunity, colleagues, to also invite you to make your opinions heard at the global level. You have an opportunity. There is a 1 minute online survey, and let me just give you the address is un75.online, un75.online. You will declare what future you want and the kind of UN that you need. So please make the most of this opportunity. And perhaps if we have a massive participation, we will put the Philippines at the forefront of the voice of youth. So please mobilize as much as possible your friends, your peers, your colleagues, because my intention as the UN resident coordinator in the Philippines is to make sure that youth, they take advantage of this opportunity and they convey the voice of Philippines to the planet. Uh, Today, as we look to recover better together from the pandemic, I echo the UN Secretary General call for leaders and adults everywhere to do everything possible to enable the world's youth to enjoy lives of safety, dignity, and opportunity and contribute to the fullest of their great potential of youth. Everyone is concerned by the SDGs, and this requires high doses of commitment. You are demonstrating that, advocacy, and perseverance. Project 2030 is part of this great investment, and we cannot give up. You cannot give up. The great Nelson Mandela, that I think all of you know, said something that is extremely useful for Project 2030 in times of COVID-19. He said, "A winner is a dreamer who never gives up. Do not judge me by my successes, judge me by how many times I fell down, I got back up again." So, colleagues, peers, I look forward to continue working hand in hand with you to make sure that UN is ready and able to deliver together with and for history's largest generation of young people. Thank you so much for this invitation.
Thank you so much, RC Gustavo Gonzalez. And noted on that. And of course, we are one with you for us to be the first generation to end extreme poverty, the most successful in fighting inequalities, and the last generation who will live with the threat of climate change. Everyone agrees to that, right? And of course, noted on the application for the UN Youth Advisory Board and the survey for the UN 75, we will do an information dissemination for this. Thank you so much. And just to give you a quick run through on who's here in our General Assembly right now, we have here the top 30 gold diggers. These are young leaders from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Can I have a show of hands, please, from leaders from Luzon? Can I have a show of hands from leaders from Luzon? Ayan. Probably let's not don't spotlight me muna for the tech team. Uh so I so we can have everyone, no? Gallery view. Yeah, right. There you go. Ayan, can we have a show of hands from leaders from Luzon? Kahit ayan, taas mo kamay. Good, that's great. And how about leaders from Visayas? There you go. And how about leaders from Mindanao? And RC Gustavo, they will undergo a 6-week free training program on leadership enhancement and project implementation. They are also expected to produce enhanced proposals and projects aligned to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. We also have the SDG Youth Champions, who are more than advocates but champions who pioneered sustained outputs in their communities. Can I have a show of hands from our previous youth champions here? Ayan, I think they will go here later pa. For this one, our youth champions, by the way, they work in diverse industries such as governance, civil societies, multimedia, enterprises, health sector, legal systems, academic institutions, and community organization. All of whom complete the three major islands of Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. And finally, I would like to acknowledge as well the officers and organizing committee of the 2030 project led by CJ Dika and Jerlene Agmata. And of course, we have here the leaders for our heads from Visayas and Mindanao. Do we have Willard here?
Yes, Willard is
Yeah.
here.
Willard is here already. And of course, Kenny. Kenny, our head from Mindanao. There you go. There you Kenny Lloyd Allen is here. But we are a 100% non-profit and volunteer-based initiative. So thank you so much, RC Gustavo, for attending our General Assembly right now. We hope that this is just the beginning of our long-term partnership together with the United Nations Philippines and of course the 2030 project. Can I have everyone? Can we give a round of applause to RC Gustavo, please? Thank you so much. We are just
Thank you so
muted, but
much.
I hope. Yeah, thank you so much.
Congratulations. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And thank you so much.